Hello my dear lovely students, welcome back to English 1 lecture. Today we'll study chapter number 16, Verb. Kindly take out your English notebooks and note down each and every point discussed in this video. Children, this is lesson number 16, Verbs. In your chapter it must be given verbs, finite and infinite or non-finite, right? Now first of all, let's begin with the definition of verb. Verbs are actually action words. Verbs are action words. Now verbs express action, state or possession. Okay? Verbs express action, state or possession. They say something about the subject. Now, this subject can be a noun or a pronoun. Subject can be noun or a pronoun. Right? Now, next is, I'll give an example. Okay. Now Ram, children, in grammar, Ram is very famous. Now, we love Ram like anything. We use Ram everywhere. So, Ram is a noun, plays football. Right? Now, what is the verb in this sentence? The verb is plays. Now, what is the verb play denoting? What does it tell? It tells us, what does it tell? It tells what a noun does. Right? Now, second example I'll give you. Ram has a car. Ram has a car. Now, what is the verb in this sentence? The verb is has. Okay? Now, the verb has tells what a noun has. Correct? Now, third sentence is Ram is a good player. Now, what is the verb in this sentence? Verb is. So, what is the verb is telling you? It tells what a noun is. Fine, children? Now, next sentence I'll take is the watch is broken by Ram. Right? Now, what is the verb in this sentence? The verb is broken. Right? These two are verbs. But you'll see this verb is a helping verb. Right? And this verb is, what is this verb? This is the main verb. Right? This verb is main verb. Now, what see, you can see all these verbs are single. So, but this in this sentence, the verbs are more than one. So, we can say that verbs can be a single word. It can also be more than one word. Right? Now, in this sentence, what is being told? That this verb tells us, it tells us what happens to a noun. What happens to a noun? Right? So, you can see verbs tells you what a noun does. It tells you what a noun has. It tells you what a noun is. It also tells you what happens to a noun. And I'll explain you verbs. I'll take a new page for this. Just kindly have a look on this page. Then I'll start the other point, like few points more. Next is children, verbs. Verbs can be studied elaborately in 3 ways. Like first of all, verbs are static. Some verbs are static verbs. Okay, like we call them stative verbs. Like verbs, they express a state. So hence we call it stative. Instead of static, you may write down stative. Stative verbs. Right? Now some verbs are stative and some verbs are dynamic verbs. Right? Now what are these? I'll tell you. Now the verbs which express, now stative verbs express, please note it down, they express a situation. Okay? They provide information. They provide information. Okay? Let me give you an example. The words like, for example, the stative verbs are like think, like, then think, like, then you can write down the verbs like own. These are stative verbs. They actually do not act. They do not show any action. They simply express a situation. They provide information. Right? But some verbs are dynamic. Dynamic verbs are those verbs which show physical action. So you can write down dynamic verbs express physical action. Okay, I'm telling you children in elaborate way that you should not get confused. So express physical action. Can you give an example of physical action? For example, shout. Okay, kick. You can hit, sit, stand, jump. So these are all the words which express physical action. So these are called dynamic verbs. And it's very important point to remember is children that you should not confuse these verbs with each other. Right? Though both of these are verbs, but these verbs do not show any action. They express situation and they provide information, but they express physical action. Now let me give you an example of stative verb, like in sentence form, like I like chocolates. Right? So this verb is this stative verbs. Correct? And this tells you the state or situation or information. Now dynamic verbs. Dynamic verbs actually they express an action. Like the boy shouts. So this is an action done. A physical action done. Right? Now children, an important point to remember over here. Please note down important note. Okay. That all the stative verbs, please write there, all stative verbs do not have ing form. Do not have ing form. Okay. That means they cannot be written. They cannot be written in continuous form. Continuous tense. We can write continuous tense. Let me give an example. Like you cannot, like if you take a main verb, the baby is crying. The baby is crying. Now this word is a main verb and it could be written with ing form. Right? We can write ing form with the main verb, and it is correct. But if we write I am liking chocolate. I am liking chocolate. Do you think, children, this sentence is correct? Now this is stative verb. This is stative verb. But using ing with it doesn't make any sense. So this sentence is wrong. So remember, all the stative verbs do not have ing form. Ing form can only be written with the verbs with the main verbs. The verbs which are dynamic. The verbs which are actually active. Clear? Correct. And this is wrong sentence. Note down this important note along with this, all these details. Next, children, we are going to discuss about regular and irregular verbs. Right? Now, what are regular verbs? Regular verbs are those which are used with ed. Okay? Like these verbs are formed. These verbs are formed. You can write they are formed by adding ed to a word. For example, help. Take an example, help. Help becomes helped and helped. Right? Similarly, some words they end up with y. In case the words like cry. Now this word ends up with y. Therefore, how can we change into regular? How can we add ed to it? By removing y into removing y and changing it into I. So it becomes cry, cried, cried. So regular verbs are those which are formed by adding ed to a word. In case we have the words ending with y, what do we have to do? We have to omit y, we have to remove y and replace it with I-E-D. I-E-D. So in like we have already, you must be knowing about the 3 forms of verbs. Children, are you aware of 3 forms of verbs? 3 forms of verb. What are 3 forms of verb? Present, past and past participle. Right? This is first form, this is second form and this is third form. So in regular, like if this is a base form of verb, help, in past tense it becomes helped, and in past participle the third form also becomes helped. Right? So what do we see here? That the verbs are made in regular verbs end up with ed, ed. And what about irregular verbs? Children, irregular verbs, they do not have any set rules. Do not have any set rules. They have to be learnt by heart. They have to be learnt by heart. For example, take the word eat. Okay, eat, ate, eaten. So all the forms are different. The first form, second form, third form are all different. So in short, just note it down. When we study regular, irregular verbs, you note it down please. Regular, in regular, irregular verbs, 3 forms. First is 3 forms are same. Right? Then 2 of 3 forms are same. Then all three forms are different. Now these points are related to irregular verbs. I'll just name it A and this is B, right? This is B part. We are discussing irregular verbs. They do not have any set rules. They have to be learned by heart. This is an example given. But remember, irregular verbs are of three types. Sometimes the three forms are same. Can you take an example of the first example? Could be, this is first, second, third. Okay, 3 points are to be remembered for irregular verbs. Three forms are same. For example, take an example of the word cost. Cost, cost, cost. It remains same. Two of three forms are same. Like, take an example of bend. B-E-N-D, bend. Bent, B-E-N-T, bent. B-E-N-T, bent. Right? And all three forms are different. Like this example, eat, ate, eaten. Please note it down.